Planning ahead by the people for the people. In this topic, we are going to learn about Community Contingency Plan. A typical community contingency plan will involve following basic steps: initial awareness and rapport building, outlining the profile of the community, analyzing the situation on a participatory basis, selection of task forces, indicative responsibilities, and capacity building of task forces, rehearsals or mock drills. Rapport building with the senior citizens, village self-help groups, youth clubs, elected representatives, etc. is the first step in preparation of the community contingency plan. Discussing the recent disaster incident and the losses and risks that were involved could generate initial interest. The discussion has to be done through a participatory process. Local knowledge to cope up with the disaster should not be overlooked during these discussions. The important task here is to mobilize community participation through awareness generation techniques by various options such as mass meetings, cultural activities, street plays, audio or visual aids, displaying of posters. Village Disaster Management Committee, that is VDMC, is formed in each of the village and it is responsible for initiating disaster preparedness activities. It consists of local elected representatives, grassroots level government functionaries, NGOs, CBOs, youth clubs, and members from Mahila Samitis. While analyzing the past experiences pertaining to various natural hazards, communities develop the seasonality calendar based on the occurrence of the disaster. One of the most important activities of preparing the disaster management plan at the village level is the mapping of risk, vulnerabilities, and capacities of the village by the community itself, as it is a simple and cost-effective tool for collecting ground-level data. There are following types of mapping: social mapping, resource mapping, vulnerability mapping, and last, safe and alternate route mapping. Social mapping. The villagers or community need to pictorially show the overall layout of the locality. The map shows location of the habitat with respect to natural topography, number of pakka houses and kacha houses. Resource mapping. It focuses on the locally available resources and assets that can be utilized for building the capacities of the community during and after disaster. Mapping of the natural resources in the area includes individual skills, community leaders or doctors or drivers or swimmers, etc. Resources around the area, boats, food stock, etc. Important locations such as open land or low-lying and elevated areas. Vulnerability mapping. In this mapping exercise, the members of the community are expected to know the hazards that the villages is prone to and the possible areas that are likely to get affected, like household-wise vulnerable groups, vulnerable houses and defunct infrastructure, low-lying areas prone to floods, landslide-prone areas. Safe and alternate route mapping. In this exercise, the members of the community are expected to know the places that are safe. For example, in areas that are frequently affected by floods, we need to know the houses that are located on raised platforms, multi-storied buildings, mounds, etc. Selection of disaster management teams, that is DMTs. After analyzing the situation and mapping out the resources, the next step is to form disaster management teams or task forces from the village or ward or city so as to carry out response activity for facing any crisis situation. Training of disaster management teams, that is DMTs. The selected team members need to be well trained in specific skills so as to carry out specific tasks efficiently during a given situation of a disaster. The DMTs which need to be well trained are First Aid Group, Rescue and Evacuation Group, Water and Sanitation, Trauma Counseling. Rehearsals or mock drills and plan updating. It is important to conduct live disaster situation drills or rehearsals. Mock drill is an integrated part of the disaster preparedness plan, as it is a preparedness drill to keep the community alert. Summary. Community planning is a forward planning process which identifies human and material resources. There are 4 types of mapping: social mapping, resource mapping, vulnerability mapping, and safe and alternate route mapping. The disaster management team which need to be well trained are First Aid Group, Rescue and Evacuation Group, Water and Sanitation, Trauma Counseling. That is all in this lesson. Keep working and help for your community for its welfare and progress. Good going!